I want you to picture something with me for a second. It's a Tuesday. You're sitting at your kitchen table, maybe you've got a cup of coffee, and you're going through your bank statement online. You're scrolling down, scanning the charges, groceries, gas, streaming services, and then you see that one line item you see every single month. Homeowners insurance premium.
It's the phantom expense. It's the money that just leaves your account. And unlike the groceries or the gas, you don't get anything tangible back for it in that moment.
Exactly. It could be $150, maybe it's $300. It's just gone. Poof. And the funny thing is, you don't even mind.
No, you don't.
You pay it faithfully.
Yeah.
Because you tell yourself a story. You tell yourself, I am paying for peace of mind.
Right.
I'm paying for a promise. If the sky falls, if the wind tears my roof off, if a fire starts in the kitchen, I'm good. I have a partner.
That is the narrative. It's the safety net story. And it's a very, very powerful story because it lets us sleep at night. It's this idea that you've outsourced the risk of disaster to some multi-billion-dollar corporation that has your back.
Like a good neighbor. Right. That's what the commercials tell us.
That's the jingle.
But today, we are going to look at what happens when that story crashes headfirst into reality. Because we have a stack of documents here, a really comprehensive guide, and a fascinating case study from Kevin Schultz of Safeguard Public Adjusters that suggests the partner you've been paying for a decade isn't actually your partner at all.
No, and this is the hard truth we have to start with. The moment a disaster actually happens, when that tree hits the roof or a pipe bursts, the insurance company ceases to be your neighbor.
Okay, so what do they become?
They become your counterparty in a high-stakes financial transaction.
That is a chilling shift in perspective. It's the difference between a handshake and a lawsuit. Today, we are doing a deep dive into the world of public adjusting. And I have to admit, before reading this material from Kevin Schultz, I thought adjusting was just math.
Chuckles. Yeah, most people do.
I thought it was a guy with a clipboard counting shingles and writing a check.
If only it were that simple. It's not just math. It's negotiation. It's contract law. It's construction physics. And frankly, it's a game of psychological endurance.
Wow.
It is a whole complex ecosystem designed from the ground up to minimize what they pay you.
And it's a game where one side, the carrier, knows all the rules, has all the software, has teams of lawyers on retainer.
They wrote the rule book.
And the other side, the homeowner, usually doesn't even know they're playing a game until they're already losing.
Right. You're bringing a knife to a gunfight, and you don't even know the fight has started.
So in this deep dive, we are going to decode this world. We're going to look at the uneven playing field, as Kevin Schultz calls it. We're going to break down exactly how insurance companies minimize payouts using specific software tricks, which honestly just blew my mind.
Oh, it's wild when you see it laid out.
And we're going to walk through a real-world case study of a roof claim where the difference between the insurance offer and the real cost was just staggering.
It's a shocking number, but it's not just about the money, it's about how they arrived at that number.
What do you mean?
It involves ignoring federal safety laws, ignoring basic geometry, and frankly, ignoring reality. It's about the systematic underpayment of claims.
Oh, if you own a home or a business, or frankly, if you just pay for any kind of insurance and you assume you're safe, you need to buckle up for this one. Let's start with the players, because this was the first place I got confused in the guide. I thought an adjuster was just an adjuster.
Most people do, and that ambiguity, I would argue, is intentional. Absolutely. Terminology is the first weapon used against you. If you don't know who the players are, you don't know who to trust.
Okay, so let's lay out the landscape. Who are the people showing up at my door after a storm?
All right. Broadly speaking, there are 3 categories of adjusters. First, you have the staff adjuster. This is the most straightforward one.
Yeah.
They are a W-2 employee of the insurance company. They drive the company car. They have the company logo on their polo shirt. Their retirement fund depends on the company's stock price.
So their allegiance is crystal clear. They work for the house. They are part of the corporate structure, no question.
100%. Their job is to close claims efficiently and ideally economically for the carrier. Then you have the second category, and this is the one that trips everyone up.
Which is?
The independent adjuster.
See, independent sounds good. It sounds neutral.
It does.
It sounds like Switzerland. It sounds like a referee who doesn't care who wins. They just want to call the game fair.
That is exactly what they want you to think. But let's think about the gig economy for a second. Think about an Uber driver. An Uber driver is an independent contractor, right?
Sure. They aren't an employee. They set their own hours, technically.
Who pays them?
Uber.
Who decides if they get another ride? Who sets the rates?
The app.
The company.
Exactly. An independent adjuster is a freelancer, a 1099 contractor hired by the insurance company to handle the overflow when things get busy.
So like after a big storm.
Precisely.
Yeah.
A hurricane hits Florida or a massive hailstorm hits Texas. The staff adjusters are totally overwhelmed, so the insurance company hires these independent firms to handle the volume. They might work for State Farm on Monday and Allstate on Tuesday. But on your claim, on that specific day, they are hired by, paid by, and report directly to the insurance carrier.
So let's play this out. If an independent adjuster comes to my house and writes an estimate that is really generous, if they give me the benefit of the doubt on everything and write a huge check, what happens to them?
They stop getting assignments. It's that simple.
The insurance companies track the metrics. They call it severity. If an independent adjuster gets a reputation for being too heavy on their estimates, meaning they pay out too much, the insurance company just removes them from the roster. They stop getting calls.
So their incentive is actually stronger to keep costs down than the staff adjusters because they are constantly auditioning for their next gig. Their livelihood depends on it.
Precisely. They have zero job security. Their security comes from making the insurance company happy, and the insurance company is happy when claims are low.
That's insidious because the name implies neutrality. I'm independent. I'm just here to call balls and strikes. But actually, their strike zone is defined by the person signing their paycheck.
Correct. So you have the staff adjuster who works for them and the independent adjuster who also works for them. That leaves the third category.
The public adjuster.
The public adjuster.
The PA. This is what Kevin Schultz is. This is what his company, Safeguard Public Adjusters, does.
Right. A public adjuster is the only category of adjuster who is licensed by the state specifically to represent you, the policyholder.
Me.
Exclusively you. They do not work for insurance companies. In fact, in most states, they are legally barred from working for both sides. They can't wear two hats. They are your hired gun.
And their goal, what's the mission statement?
Their goal is what's called full indemnity.
We hear that word a lot in legal dramas. Indemnity. It sounds fancy. Break that down for us in plain English. What does full indemnity actually look like in my living room?
It means to make whole. That's the literal definition. It means restoring you to the exact financial and physical position you were in 1 second before the loss occurred.
The exact position.
The exact one. It doesn't mean good enough. It doesn't mean livable. It certainly doesn't mean patched up.
Give me an example.
Okay. Let's say you have custom hand-milled oak cabinets in your kitchen. They were built by a local craftsman in 1995. They're beautiful. A fire damages them. The insurance company adjuster, whether they're staff or independent, might come in and say, well, we sell oak cabinets at Home Depot. They have doors, they hold plates. Here's a check for the price of stock cabinets.
That fixes the kitchen, technically. I have cabinets again. I can put plates in them.
But it's not indemnity. You didn't have stock cabinets from a big box store. You had custom cabinets. Full indemnity is the cost to find a master carpenter to mill that specific profile in that specific wood to match what you lost perfectly.
The cost to truly replace what was lost, not just substitute it.
Exactly. A public adjuster fights for that distinction. The insurance adjuster fights for the Home Depot price. It's a fundamental conflict in goals.
So the public adjuster is basically the translator between the real world and the insurance world.
That's a great way to put it. And the reason you need a translator is that the insurance world speaks a completely different language. And I don't just mean the legal jargon in the policy itself.
What else?
I mean the software they use to generate the numbers.
Yes. Xactimate. This keeps coming up in the source material. It sounds like a villain from a sci-fi movie. Xactimate.
It sort of is if you're on the wrong side of it. Xactimate is the industry standard estimating software. Almost every major insurer uses it. It's essentially a massive pricing database.
So how does it work? You just type in roof and it gives you a price?
No, and this is where the expertise gap absolutely destroys homeowners. Xactimate is a database of thousands and thousands of individual line items.
Like a menu.
A giant, complicated menu. Remove shingle, replace shingle, paint wall, mask window, apply caulk. Each one of those is a separate code with a price attached.
Okay.
Here is the catch, and this is the whole game right here. The software doesn't know what happened to your house. It doesn't have eyes. The adjuster has to tell it what to do.
They have to input the data.
They have to select the line items. If the adjuster doesn't click the specific button for add 20% waste for a complex hip roof, the software assumes zero waste. If the adjuster doesn't click scrape old caulk before painting, the software pays zero for that labor.
So the default setting is always the cheapest.
The software defaults to the cheapest, simplest version of the job unless a human expert intervenes to say, no, wait, this is more complex than that.
So if I'm a homeowner and I get an estimate that looks super official, it's got the Xactimate logo, it's 20 pages long, it has columns of numbers, I'm just going to assume it's accurate because a computer generated it.
Correct. It looks authoritative. It looks like the price. But it's not the price. It's just a list of the buttons the adjuster chose to press.
Or, more importantly, the buttons they didn't choose to press.
That's it, exactly. And if their incentive is to save the company money, guess which buttons they don't press?
They aren't pressing the Make It Perfect button. They're not pressing the Full Indemnity button.
There is no full indemnity button. You have to build it line by line.
And before we get to the specific case study where we see this in action, there was one more structural thing in the guide that just shocked me. The licensing.
Oh, this is a huge gap. It's a real eye-opener.
I just assumed everyone involved in this process, handling tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars of other people's money, had to be licensed.
You would think so, wouldn't you? I mean, it's a highly regulated industry. But according to the guide by Kevin Schultz, there is a massive discrepancy here.
What is it?
Public adjusters, the ones who work for you, must be licensed by the state. They have to pass rigorous exams on policy and ethics. They have to maintain continuing education credits every year. They are fingerprinted, background checked, and they are held to a strict ethical code by the Department of Insurance.
Okay, that sounds robust. That's what I'd expect.
It is. Now, what about the company adjusters, the staff and independent guys?
What about them?
Often they do not hold an individual license.
What? How is that possible?
In many jurisdictions, they are allowed to operate under the umbrella of the insurance company's corporate license. The company is licensed, so by extension, their employees are covered.
So let me get this straight. The person fighting for me is a licensed, regulated, fingerprinted professional with their own license on the line.
Correct.
The person fighting against me might just be an employee following a corporate script with no individual license to lose.
That is often the case. It's like going to court where your lawyer has to pass the bar exam, but the other side's lawyer doesn't.
It's a fundamentally uneven playing field.
That's the term Kevin Schultz uses, and it's perfect.
And this leads us perfectly into the meat of this deep dive. Section 2, the tale of two roof estimates. Because we can talk abstractly about incentives and licensing all day, but when you see the actual numbers, it's startling.
This is the smoking gun. This is a real claim handled by Safeguard Public Adjusters. And if you're multitasking right now, I want you to come back to us for a second because you need to hear this math.
Set the scene for us. What happened?
Okay. It's a standard residential house. A storm rolls through. Hail, wind, the usual. The roof is toast. It's clearly damaged and needs to be replaced.
So the homeowner does the right thing. They call their insurance company.
Yep. They file a claim. The insurance company sends their adjuster out. He climbs up, takes some photos, measures the roof, goes back to his truck, and prints out a Xactimate summary.
What was the verdict, the official offer?
The insurance company said the replacement cost value, that's the RCV, the total cost to do the job right was $21,900.
$21,900. Now, pause there. To a regular person, to you or me, nearly $22,000 sounds like a lot of money.
It's a fortune. You look at that number and you think, wow, okay, I can get a great roof for this. They really took care of me. You feel relieved.
But the homeowner felt something wasn't quite right. They called in Safeguard Public Adjusters.
They did. And Safeguard didn't look at a different house. They didn't look at a different storm. They looked at the exact same roof. And they ran their own estimate using the exact same software.
Same Xactimate. Same pricing database.
Right. Apples to apples.
What was their number?
Their total replacement cost value was $36,401.20.
Whoa. Okay, wait. Let me do the math on that. That's a $14,501.20 difference.
$14,500. That is a 66% increase over the original offer.
66%.
Yeah.
That's not a rounding error. That's not a difference of opinion.
No.
That is a completely different project.
So where did that money go? Where was it hiding? Did the public adjuster just inflate the prices? Did they say, oh, we need gold-plated shingles now?
No. And this is why this document from Kevin Schultz is so important. They broke it down line by line. The insurance company didn't deny the roof. They admitted they owed for the roof, but they died by 1,000 cuts. They omitted dozens of necessary and in some cases legally required steps.
Okay, let's dig into the details. I want to understand what they missed. Because if they missed it on this claim, they are missing it on everyone's claim.
Let's start with the simple one, waste factors.
Waste. It sounds like something out of a sanitation report. SLAFs. It sounds boring, but it's actually just geometry. A roof isn't a flat piece of paper, right? It has angles. It has hips and valleys where the different roof planes meet.
Right, the triangles and the pointy bits.
Exactly. When you lay a shingle on a flat, rectangular part of the roof, you use the whole shingle. But when you get to a hip or a valley, you have to cut the shingle to match the angle.
Okay, makes sense.
That little piece you cut off. It's trash, it's waste, you can't use it anywhere else.
Scrap.
Exactly. So if you have a complex roof with lots of angles and dormers, your waste percentage is high. You might need to buy 15% or even 20% more shingles than the actual square footage of the roof just to account for all the cuts.
So what did the insurance company do?
They applied a standard flat waste factor, usually around 10%. They essentially pretended the roof was a simple rectangle.
They ignored the complexity.
They ignored the geometry of the house. The public adjuster went up there, measured the actual linear feet of hips and ridges, and proved that you couldn't physically cover the roof with the amount of material the insurer was paying for.
So what happens in that scenario? The contractor starts the job and just runs out of shingles halfway through.
And who pays for the extra ones? You do, out of pocket. Or, worse, the contractor cuts corners. They stretch the material, they don't overlap correctly, and your brand new roof is compromised from day one.
Okay, so that's materials. That's one cut. Let's talk about labor. The steep roof charge.
This one makes me angry because it's about human safety and physical difficulty. This particular roof had a pitch between 712 and 1212.
Okay, translate that for the non-roofers out there.
A 412 pitch is a pretty standard walkable roof. A 1212 pitch is a 45-degree angle. That is very steep. You cannot just walk on it comfortably. If you stand on it without a rope or a tow board, you will slide off and hit the ground.
Okay, so it's dangerous work.
It's dangerous, but it's also incredibly slow. Think about it. You can't carry a heavy bundle of shingles on your shoulder and run up a 45-degree slope.
No.
You have to pass it up hand to hand. You have to set up roof jacks to stand on. You have to be roped in. Every single movement takes twice as long.
And in construction, time is money.
Time is labor, and labor is money. Xactimate has a specific line item for steep charge 712 pitch and another for 2012 pitch. It pays the crew more per hour because the labor productivity is way lower.
And the insurance company?
They minimized this. They might have paid for a 712 pitch, but ignored the sections that were 1012. They acted like it was a gentle slope where the guys could just jog around.
They lowballed the difficulty.
Completely. The public adjuster documented the exact pitch of every single roof facet and added the correct labor modifier. That alone was hundreds and hundreds of dollars in missing labor costs.
But the one that really got me, and this feels almost like gaslighting, was the roofing felt.
Size. The felt, yes.
This is a classic.
Can you read what the insurance company's logic was here? It's just unbelievable.
Their official position in writing was that when you tear off the old shingles, the felt paper underneath just comes up with them automatically.
So it's a 2-for-1. A 2-for-1 tear-off. Buy one removal, get one free. So they don't need to pay for the labor to remove the felt separately?
But does it just come up with the shingles?
Anyone who has ever stripped a roof in their life knows that is absolute nonsense.
Right.
The felt is often stuck to the wood deck with years of baked-on tar. It's also nailed down with thousands of these little plastic cap nails. You have to get down there with a flat shovel or a scraper and physically scrape it off. It takes effort. It takes time.
And it creates more trash. It takes up space in the dumpster.
That's the big one. It's not just the labor to remove it. It's the volume of debris. Old felt is bulky. It takes up cubic yards of space in the dumpster. Dumpsters are priced by volume and weight.
So the PA.
The public adjuster called this out as misinformation, a very polite term. They added specific line items for the labor to scrape and remove the felt and the increased dumpster fees to haul it away.
It really seems like the insurance company is building a fantasy roof. A roof where waste doesn't exist, where gravity doesn't slow you down, and where trash disappears by magic.
It's a theoretical minimum roof. It's the roof you could build in a lab with zero gravity and a magic crash can. But we haven't even gotten to the worst part.
What could be worse?
The parts that are actually illegal.
The codes.
Yes. The building codes, these aren't suggestions. They aren't best practices. They are the law.
Yeah.
If a contractor builds a roof that violates the local building code, he can lose his license. The homeowner can face fines. The house can fail inspection when you try to sell it years later.
So surely the insurance policy, which is a contract to restore your home, pays to bring the house up to code.
You would think. It's often a specific provision called ordinance or law coverage. But in this case study, they completely ignored IRC R9005.2.8.5.
Okay, what is that in plain English?
It's the drip edge requirement. The code says you must have a metal drip edge installed along the eaves of the roof. It's a little L-shaped piece of metal that directs water into the gutter instead of letting it run down the fascia board and cause rot.
Seems pretty important.
It's mandatory, the insurance estimate. 0. They just left it off, pretended it wasn't required.
So they are paying for a roof that is legally non-compliant from the moment it's finished.
Yes, but the most egregious one, the one that really should keep homeowners up at night, is OSHA.
The Occupational Safety and Health Administration. The federal government.
Yes, OSHA standard 1926.502. It states unequivocally that for any construction work taking place over 6 feet off the ground, fall protection is mandatory.
Harnesses, anchors, lanyards.
All of it. And this roof is way over 6 feet high. And as we established, it's steep.
It's a death trap without safety gear.
Absolutely. The insurance company allocated $0 for fall protection.
0, not dollar.
0.
So play that out for me. I'm the homeowner. I take their $22,000 check. I hire a contractor. He looks at the budget. There's no money in there for harnesses, for anchors, for the time it takes to set it all up. What does he do?
He has 2 choices. Choice A. He buys the safety gear and uses it, but it comes out of his own pocket, which probably eats his entire profit margin on the job.
Okay, not likely. What's choice B?
Choice B. He tells his crew, just be careful up there, and they go up on that steep roof without any gear.
And if one of them fall?
If they fall and break their neck in your yard, OSHA comes investigating. They see there was no gear. They ask why. The contractor says, the budget from the insurance company didn't allow for it. Guess who gets sued?
Not me.
You. You are the property owner. You authorized the work. By accepting an insurance estimate that explicitly did not include federally mandated safety gear, you implicitly authorized an unsafe job site. You could be liable.
That is terrifying. I never, ever thought that accepting an insurance check could open me up to a multi-million-dollar lawsuit from a roofing crew.
It absolutely can. The public adjuster in their estimate included $96 per day for harnesses and lanyards, plus supervision costs. They didn't just ask for more money, they protected the homeowner from catastrophic liability.
And that's how you get to the $14,500 difference. It wasn't gold plating. It was geometry, gravity, legality, and safety.
It was reality. That's the difference. One estimate was based on reality, and the other was based on a spreadsheet fantasy designed to save money.
So we've established that the estimates are often fundamentally flawed and dangerously low. But how do they get you to accept them? Because most people don't just roll over. They fight back.
Oh, they definitely try. But the insurance companies have a strategy for that, too. Kevin Schultz calls it the tactics of confusion.
Or, as I was thinking of it, the war of attrition.
It is absolutely a war of attrition, and the main weapon they use is something known as the adjuster shuffle.
Describe the shuffle. It sounds like a dance move.
It's a dance, all right. It goes like this. You file a claim. You get assigned a field adjuster. Let's call him Bob. Bob comes out. He's nice. He seems knowledgeable. He takes photos. You think, great, Bob is handling it.
Bob is my guy. I have a point of contact.
A week goes by. You haven't heard from Bob. You call his number. It goes straight to voicemail. Then you get a generic email. Your claim has been reassigned to Sarah for handling.
Okay. Bye, Bob. Hello, Sarah. A little annoying, but okay.
You call Sarah. Sarah is a desk adjuster in a call center in Omaha. She has never seen your house. She's never been to your state. She says, I'm looking at the file here, but I don't see Bob's photos. Can you resend them?
Ugh. Okay, frustrating, but I can do that. I resend them.
Another week goes by. You call Sarah. Oh, Sarah's no longer with this department. Your claim has now been transferred to Mike.
You've got to be kidding me.
Mike looks at the file and says, I'm not sure about these photos Sarah uploaded. We're going to need a reinspection. So he sends a new field adjuster out. Let's call him Tom.
And we're back to square one.
You are 6 weeks in. You've told your story 3 times. You've sent the same PDF 4 times. Your roof is still leaking into a bucket in the living room. And suddenly, that initial lowball offer, that $21,900, starts to look appealing just because it makes the pain stop.
Just send me the check so I can be done with this. That's the thought.
That is the sentence they are waiting for. That is the victory condition for the insurer. They use friction and frustration as a tactic to wear down your resolve. They make it so difficult to fight that you just give up.
It's cynical. It's just deeply cynical.
It's incredibly effective. And in commercial claims, business interruptions, for example, it's even worse.
How so?
They know a business owner is bleeding money every single day they're closed, so the delays are even more powerful. They use that desperation. Look, Mr. Business Owner, we can fight about this last $100,000 for another 6 months, or you can take this check today and get your doors open next week.
It's coercion. You're holding their livelihood hostage.
It's leverage, pure and simple. And this is where the public adjuster changes the dynamic, not just financially, but emotionally.
What do you mean by that?
When you hire a PA, they become the single point of contact. You sign a form that says, direct all communication to my representative.
So they take the calls.
They take the calls from Sarah and Mike and Tom. They resend the PDFs. They know the game. They don't get emotional. They get administrative. They just follow up and document and escalate.
So I get my life back.
You get to be the homeowner again, not the full-time unpaid claim handler for your own loss. You stop dreading the phone ringing.
But, and here is the big elephant in the room that I know people are thinking about. Experts cost money.
Always.
If I am sitting here looking at a wrecked house and I'm already worried about the deductible, worried about paying the mortgage, the idea of hiring some high-priced consultant feels impossible. How do the economics work?
This is the most important part for listeners to understand, and it's what makes the whole thing accessible. Public adjusting operates on a contingency fee model.
Like a personal injury lawyer. We don't get paid unless you win.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
You do not pay a public adjuster by the hour. You don't write them a retainer check up front. There are no upfront costs at all.
So what's the standard cut?
According to the source guide, the industry standard is around 10% of the total claim settlement. Some states cap it by law, but 10% is a good rule of thumb.
Okay, let's do the math on that. Because
Sure.
I can hear people saying, I don't want to give up 10% of my money. Let's go back to our roof example.
Let's do it.
The insurance company's initial offer was roughly $22,000. If I take that check and go to loan, I keep $22,000.
Correct. And you have a leaky, non-compliant, unsafe roof, but you have the money.
Right. Now, Safeguard Public Adjusters comes in, they fight the fight, they document everything, they get the claim settlement up to $36,400.
Right. So the PA's fee is 10% of that new higher number, 10% of $36,400. That's $3,640.
So you take the final settlement of $36,400, you subtract the PA's fee of $3,760, and that leaves me with $32,760.
Compare that to the original $22,000 you were offered. You were still $10,760 ahead.
After paying the professional.
After paying the fee. The fee didn't come out of your pocket. It came out of the found money. It came out of the money the insurance company was trying to keep for itself.
That's a crucial distinction. The fee is self-liquidating. It pays for itself and then some.
And consider the risk profile from the homeowner's perspective. What if the PA fights and fights, and for whatever reason, the insurance company just says, nope, we aren't paying a penny more?
What do I owe the PA then for all their time?
Zero. Nothing. Nada. No recovery. No fee. If they don't add value to your claim, they don't get paid. This aligns their interests perfectly with yours. The more they get for you, the more they make.
Unlike the independent adjuster, whose incentive is to pay less to get more work from the carrier.
Exactly. The PA is the only person in the entire ecosystem whose financial incentive is to maximize your payout, period.
So practically speaking, when does a listener make this call? Do I call a PA if a single shingle blows off my roof?
Probably not for a single shingle or a very small claim that's under your deductible, but Kevin Schultz's guide outlines a few specific triggers.
What's number one?
First, complexity. If you have a fire, a flood, a major hurricane, or a business interruption claim, call immediately. Don't even talk to the insurance company first.
Why? Because there is too much hidden damage.
Exactly. Smoke damage gets behind walls, water wicks up into drywall, mold starts growing in 48 hours. These are things you can't see with the naked eye initially. A PA knows how to bring in the right experts, hygienists, engineers, to document that damage from day one.
Okay, so complexity is a trigger. What's the second trigger?
Lack of confidence. Gut feeling. If the company adjuster shows up, spends 10 minutes on site, doesn't get on the roof, barely takes any photos, and leaves, you have a problem.
There's going through the motions.
Yes. If they seemed rushed or dismissive of your concerns or just plain inexperienced, call a PA for a second opinion. Most PAs will review your situation for free.
And the third trigger?
If you feel lowballed, this is the most common one. You get that check in the mail, you look at the number, and your gut just screams, this isn't enough to fix it. Listen to your gut. Or if you show the insurance estimate to a trusted contractor and he literally laughs out loud, call a PA.
Now, what happens if the PA gets involved, presents all the data, shows them the OSHA codes, the building codes, And the insurance company still says no. What's the next step?
It happens. Some carriers are just stubborn, or there's a genuine dispute over the policy language. The first step is that the PA will keep filing supplements. That means new evidence, new arguments. They nag, they negotiate, they wear down the desk adjuster.
And if that fails, if you're at a total impasse,
Then you escalate. Depending on the policy and the state, you might go to appraisal, which is like a binding arbitration with industry experts, or you go to litigation.
lawsuits, that sounds expensive and scary.
It can be. But here's the nuance. A lot of people panic and they rush to hire a lawyer first.
Why is that a bad move?
Well, lawyers are great, but they're expensive. They often take a contingency fee of 33% or even 40% of the settlement. PAs, as we said, are around 10%.
That is a huge difference.
It's massive. So if a PA can solve the problem through negotiation or appraisal, you keep way more of your settlement money. You should always try the 10% solution before you jump to the 40% solution.
That makes a ton of sense.
And if you do end up needing a lawyer, a good PA has already done 90% of the work. They hand the attorney a file that is perfectly documented. Here are the photos, here are the engineering reports, here are the code violations, here is the written refusal from the insurer. It makes the lawyer's job and the lawsuit much faster and stronger.
And the guide says that litigation is actually relatively uncommon when a competent PA is involved early. Why is that?
Because insurance companies are bullies, but they're not stupid. They're all about calculating risk. If a licensed public adjuster presents them with an ironclad estimate based on federal law and rigid geometry, the insurer's own lawyers will look at it and say, we will lose this in court. So they almost always settle before it gets there.
They just need someone to call their bluff.
They need someone who speaks their language and who isn't intimidated.
This has been, honestly, a little disturbing. It really shakes your faith in the system. You pay for safety, but you get a negotiation.
It should shake your faith. But it's better to be disillusioned and prepared than to be naive and broke after a disaster.
Let's summarize what we've learned today for the listeners, the key takeaways from this deep dive.
Okay. Point 1, the independent adjuster is not independent. They work for the insurance company. Their incentive is to keep claim costs down.
Point 2, the estimates are generated by software's Xactimate. That defaults to the lowest possible price unless an expert forces it to account for the complexities and legal requirements of reality.
Point 3, we saw the proof. A $14,500 gap on a single ordinary roof. And that gap was caused by missing basic things like waste factors, steep charges, and critical safety codes like OSHA.
Point 4, the adjuster shuffle is a deliberate tactic. They use frustration and delay to wear you down so you'll accept a low offer. Don't fall for it.
And point 5, the most important one. Public adjusters work for you on contingency. They level the playing field, they handle the stress, and they almost always pay for themselves out of the increased settlement they recover.
We want to thank Kevin Schultz and Safeguard Public Adjusters for providing this source material. It really pulled back the curtain on an industry that thrives on being opaque and confusing.
It's a brave thing to do to expose the industry mechanics like that for everyone to see.
I want to leave you, our listener, with one final thought to chew on. We spent a lot of time today talking about that roof. A roof is visible. You can see it from the driveway. You can touch the shingles.
It's the most obvious part of the house. It's right there in the open.
If the insurance company, with all their so-called experts and their fancy software, can accidentally miss $14,000 on something as simple and visible as a roof,
Here it comes.
what are they missing in the parts of your policy you can't see? What are they missing in the fine print of your business interruption coverage? What are they missing inside the walls of your fire-damaged living room where the smoke can sit of settle?
If they miss the obvious stuff, you can guarantee they're missing the subtle, hitting stuff.
If you don't know what to look for, you are paying for their mistakes with your own money. You're financing their profits with your loss.
Don't be a victim of the default settings.
Be vigilant, ask questions, and maybe, just maybe, get your own expert in your corner. Thanks for listening to this deep dive.
See you next time.